Fred Bear once said, "Immerse yourself in the outdoor experience. It will cleanse your soul and make you a better person." Welcome to the Rooted Outdoors podcast, where we dive deep into the mental, emotional, and spiritual side of hunting. And now your hosts, Dave Ashworth and Corey Bauman.
Welcome to the Rooted Outdoors podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Corey Bauman. I'm with my buddy, Dave Ashworth. Dave, you're smiling because I know you love it every time I do that.
I do love it. I do love it. It feels good, man. I feel like we're starting to get back in a rhythm.
Yeah.
And this is our second one without a guest, but I'm excited, man. I love that. I love the intro. It gets me excited.
Remember we were like talking about getting rid of that intro and you're like, nah, dude, you got to keep it.
You said when we relaunched, you were like, I might just bail on the intro. Like, we'll just kind of dive in. And I was like, heck no, you aren't bailing on that intro. It's the best part of the show.
Classic intro. Oh, I don't know. I think our new edition about snacks is probably the biggest.
That's true.
Edition.
That's true.
And that's you. That's all you.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Well, dude, what are we going to talk about tonight? First, I know what we're going to talk about, but I mean, let's give some updates first. What kind of updates you got? What do you got going on these days? Are you doing any scouting or shooting? Or I know you're doing some hunting.
Hunting? Yeah. I'm failing miserably in my
goodness.
hunting. So actual hunting, not a ton right now. I usually like to wait until about this time and start really doing some shed hunting, kind of wait till some of them are down. So I don't really have any plans to get out soon, but I would like to get out and start scouting. I'm in this weird position where like we're trying to move and I don't know exactly where we're going to be. And so where we end up will drive kind of what piece of public I'll be hunting. So it could be further south where there's some public or further north. So I'm trying to hold off on doing a lot of that type of scouting because I want to, once we move, like I'm going to find the closest public and scout that hard because I'll try to hunt that a lot, but I just don't know where that's going to be yet. Walked the farm a couple times, haven't found much. It's been probably in all the years that I've hunted at the farm, this is probably the least amount of historical sign that I found on the farm, which is interesting. Just not a lot of like old rubs. Usually it's like they're all over the place and in spots that I've typically found them, just not a lot. And the ones that I find are pretty small. So I don't know what's up with that, to be honest. I've
any
processed
thoughts
a little.
though? Any like any like just thoughts off the top of your head of what could be kind of changing it? Or do you think the logging's doing anything?
I think the log the flat was a change, and that'll just continue to, even though they're not doing it anymore, that'll change. Just it's 20 something acres of log, and it's just getting thick in there, so that's changing what they're doing there 100%. He also planted corn in a different place that he hasn't since I started hunting the farm. And we know based on the cameras that was pulling deer into a spot that we had never really seen before. So that's definitely changing it. So it could be me not looking in the right places. Could be the deer doing different things. Hard to say right now. I need to walk it a little bit more, but every time I feel like I'm getting a bead on the farm, it throws a curveball. So that's so not much to update on the hunting. Turkey will be here soon, which is always fun. It's like a good change of pace. Try to get some people out again this year. But not too much else on the hunting side. And then we're still looking for a house. And it's been a journey. We lost on another one about last week, or it'll be a couple weeks when this episode drops.
That's rough.
So that's been challenging for sure. But my wife and I had a good conversation the other night about all the things that God's been teaching us through this process. I feel like that was really important, not just to look at it from the negative. I feel like I've been really bad at that.
Yeah.
But to look at it from the positive and the things that he's been teaching us and the way he's been working on us individually, working on our marriage, and just a lot of positive things to come out of it. And so trying to shift my mindset a little bit there. But yeah, those are the biggest things for now, man. But
man,
how about you?
Well, first of all, commend you, because that is not easy to do, and that is very, how do I say, very mature, but not in like a mature like it's very spiritually mature for you to sit down and discuss that. I think that is just something a lot of people avoid. And those things can pile up, I mean, quickly. It's easy for anyone else to sit there and go, dude, it's just a house, you'll find one. Your house is out there. I get it. Like, and I'm not making fun of anybody who said that to you, but the reality is, I mean, I was in that industry for 10 years, and there is a lot of emotion attached to it. And there's a lot of disappointment at times in the way the market is right now. I mean, I don't even, it's tough.
It is. But you're right. Like, probably most people that I've talked to have said, you know, well, God, it's not the house God has for you. Right. And you kind of get sick of hearing that a little bit. But at the same time, like, if you really pull back, like what it is, like, it actually is really deeply rooted in truth too. Like, you know what he does. And since I didn't get this one, instead of being disappointed, what is he teaching me? Right. Like, what are we learning? What are we learning about ourselves? What are we learning about each other? I mean, a very basic thing is, what we are looking for in a house since we first started looking has changed significantly since we first started. And I feel like we're much more dialed into what we're looking for and what's important. And that wouldn't have come without going through this process multiple times.
Right.
So that's a blessing in and of itself on a very surface level. So, I don't know if I would call it mature. I feel like I was backed into a corner with disappointment. And I didn't know what else to do except, God, what are you teaching me? So I'll take it, but I don't know if I would consider it being mature.
Oh man.
But what's up with you, man? What's new?
Dude, I bought a boat.
There we go.
It's just
there we go.
Nothing new, but no, it's I've always wanted like a fixer upper little boat, right? And now that I live like close to all these lakes and I'm like duck hunting, it's like, man, I need a boat to get there and scout and do all these things. And you know, I don't have like a big budget for a boat. And I know I know from other people that have boats, like it's a money pit. You're gonna dump money into it, all this stuff, and that's fine. Like, I look at it as more of a creating experiences for us and be able to like go duck hunting, take Bryn fishing, and so I bought this little boat, and it's a 14-foot V-hull John boat. So built in like 1965, really cool little boat. And it actually has an old outboard that was like built in the 70s. And I'm going to try and get that thing running, and I'm going to paint the boat. I'm going to like put some stuff in it. I'm going to trick it out a little bit and turn it into a fishing / duck boat. And looking forward to just a little project, you know. And like my wife always says, she's like, you collect hobbies. Like, now you have another hobby. Like, all of a sudden you're like into boating. Like, where does that even come? You're training a dog. You've got a boat. Like, anyway, it's just me. That's me. That's my personality. And like, it's a project. So I don't know. It's been cool. And I've been, working on it. And dude, I got a sweet deal. It came with a trailer, the boat, outboard motor, came with pretty much a brand new Minn Kota trolling motor.
Yeah.
Which that alone was $400 or $500 probably. And then it has a Garmin fish finder that I'm going to hook up. I'm going to rewire the whole boat, and like, it's going to be cool. I'm excited.
That is cool. I love it, man. I've always like desired, maybe not as much for fishing, although I do like fishing, but for hunting purposes, for like duck hunting or like sneaking down a river, like turkey hunting, deer hunting, like all of that stuff. I don't have like the places to do that around here, or I would totally be doing that. Like, if I had like rivers and creeks and like places I could slip into public land and stuff, like, man, I would love a boat and like set it up and work on it myself. And especially with your daughter, like, man, that's like, That's going to be fun. So you got to keep us posted on how that's going. That'll be a lot of fun.
I mean, the goal is to actually get it up and running before turkey season.
Yeah.
Because I've already thought of that. Like the lakes around here and stuff, there's spots that I could get to in a boat and just listen and like cruise at the trolling motor along the, along the shoreline and listen for turkeys. Like that's a cool way to hunt. I've never done that before.
For sure. And turkeys a lot of times will roost over some sort of river or lake or something. Mm-hmm. And you can hear so far because it's just open and the sound travels well. And man, I feel like that'd be such a cool way to hunt. Like just out on your boat, you hear gobbles and just off right to it in your boat and getting set up. Like, man, that's some cool stuff, man. Yeah. I like it.
I'm excited. So we'll see. We'll stay tuned. There'll be a little journey and we'll update every time we do a podcast on where's the boat at.
Sounds good.
And then when it's done, we'll like have to like share some pictures or something.
Got to. We need some. You need some before and after. So,
yeah.
So
got the befores done.
Good.
Before pictures are done. So
good. I like it.
But that's pretty much it for me right now. Just doing that. Really busy with work and actually heading to Alabama in a couple weeks. Mm-hmm. Taking Charlie out to Alabama for the training program that I'm taking Charlie through right now has an awesome community. I think I've mentioned it before. And actually, the owner of Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy is going to be on our podcast here very shortly. So you'll be hearing that podcast come out probably next. So I'm going out to Alabama, going to meet some awesome dudes that are training dogs right now. Just spend a couple days out there and meet everybody. And so looking forward to that. And then, then it's going to get real busy because then again, turkey season's starting. So it's going to get real busy.
Yeah. It's good though. It's good busy. Busy with stuff like that. So,
yeah, man.
Sweet. Let's dive into our topic tonight. It's a good topic and it could get pretty deep pretty quick.
Real quick.
Because there's a lot there and a lot of emotions tied to what we're going to talk about. We actually touched on it briefly on our podcast with Josh and Jared from the Elevate Stand Company, but what we want to talk about tonight is just how to manage your expectations when going into the woods, because there's a lot that goes into that with your emotional state, your mental state, your spiritual state. There's just a lot around that. And then you have all of the outside influences of things that are trying to pull at you and tell you to do this and not do this, and you're not good here, or whatever the case might be. I know for me, it's been a struggle for a long time. I feel like I'm at a pretty good place now, but for a long time, like that, certain expectations that I was placing on myself and I felt were being placed on me, were a lot to deal with. And there was a big struggle, and it's something that I do still struggle with at times. So we just kind of wanted to unpack that topic a little bit, talk about it, dive into it, and be very transparent and open about where we are at, in hopes that it can relate to other people and help them to process where they're at on their journey and how they can just be in a better mental, emotional, spiritual state heading into the woods.
Love it, dude. That's deep. And that we probably be like a 2-3 part series, which is fine.
It's fine. I'm in for that.
We're in for part 1. So we haven't really even discussed the brief topic. I thought it would be kind of cool. I was just thinking is like maybe interview each other a little bit. Maybe like I could ask you some questions to get the thing rolling a little bit, and then maybe just kind of take it wherever it goes.
Let's do it.
So the one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is how serious we can get with hunting really quickly. And what I mean by that is when you think about hunting from like a hunting standpoint, right? Like we talk about how awesome it is to be out in the woods and see God's creation and see the wild and smell the smells and all these things that are awesome, right? And that's why we go out there, right? We say that's why we go out there. The reality is, especially when you get into whitetail hunting, in a lot of cases, or turkey hunting, whatever hunting you're into, things get serious real quick, because at least I'll speak for myself, is because you're so passionate, and it's what God put inside you, that you're so passionate about it, that you want to be successful. Like, you want to be out there, but you want to be successful. And I know specifically for you, more of a question is, I know over the years, like since we've started hunting the farm, you now have this private piece of property. And while I know you enjoy being out there, I know that there's been times where it's serious business. Like, you're out there, and every single move is calculated. And you judge yourself on every single move you might have made that was a wrong move, when in reality, sometimes we don't even know what that is, right? But you not overthink, but you analyze everything, and it's a serious business. Like, you're there to do something and get something done. And so I guess my question is like, how does it get to that? How does it get there? And I've been there too. In some cases, I'm still there with probably other things I do. So it's like kind of two parts. It's like, how does it get so serious? Like, how do you get so serious with hunting where like sometimes maybe you could potentially lose the joy of it? And then the other piece is like, how do you recapture the joy of hunting, but still have really specific goals that you want to execute with your, whatever it is to you, to be successful?
Yeah. It's a great question. My light just went out mid podcast here. So we're going to keep pushing on.
Yeah. I didn't even notice it. You're good.
Didn't notice. So let me make sure I have your question. First part was how did we get here? Like, how did it become so serious at times?
Yeah.
I think for me, there's multiple factors that go into it. I think the first thing is, a lot of people tend to downplay what we are doing out there. And the reality is, we're going out into the wild to try to take an animal's life. That's serious, right? Yeah. Like, that is something that is not to be taken lightly. If I'm being honest, I see some people that take it a little bit too lightly for me. And I don't really like that. I think it's a serious thing that you're taking animals' life. Now, I'm not saying that in a way where we shouldn't be having fun and there shouldn't be joy involved. But when you're taking something's life, there has to be an aspect of seriousness to that and understanding what you were doing. So that's the first thing. I wouldn't say that's a major factor, but I think that's a factor.
For sure.
I think the second part is what you kind of alluded to, was, and we'll kind of get into this, but it's our competitive spirit, and what we are out there to do, and the expectations that we set for ourselves. I'm going out here to shoot this specific animal, a mature whitetail or a turkey or whatever it is. And when you set those expectations at a certain level, the reality is, if you want to get to that level, you have to have some level of seriousness to it, or you're just not going to get there. Like, if you just go into it like, I want to shoot a 5-year-old deer, but I'm just going to walk into the woods and see what happens. Could that happen? Of course it could happen. But if you want to be really good at it and you want to get consistent with it, there again has to be a level of seriousness to it, right? And to me, the first two things are not necessarily bad things. Those to me can be good things. Now, they can be taken too far, and I have been guilty of that. The third thing is not a good thing, and this is where my personal biggest struggle is, and that is what others are going to think of me. So I want to have a certain level of success so that other people look at me as successful. They see me, Dave, who's doing Rooted Outdoors and creating these videos and doing all these things, who's killing big deer and, quote unquote, better hunter than everybody else, right? So there's this outside thing that to get to that level, I need to be as serious as possible. Like, I can't have fun because I need to meet this goal so that I can meet these other people's expectations, even though they aren't actual expectations for me, what I think that they're expecting of me. I need to meet those goals. The only way that I can do that is to not make a mistake. I can't make any mistakes. I have to do everything perfect. I have to execute perfectly. And in order to do that, I can't have fun. And that's where the serious side of it takes away from the fun and the joy. And to me, that's where it really becomes an issue. So I would say it's 3 parts. And at different parts of my journey, different aspects have pulled more at me than others. But it's probably always been some combination of those 3.
I mean, we could just spend the rest of the podcast talking on each one of those.
There's a lot.
Be honest.
There's a lot. Yeah,
there's a lot I want to like go different directions on, but I don't want to like dive too far into one thing.
Yeah.
I will just comment on the seriousness of us. What for years, and you and I talked about this like years, probably a year or 2 ago, maybe. I don't even know if it was like a Facebook Live or something we did. We were talking about like the word harvest. Or maybe you and I were just talking, I don't even remember, but we're talking about harvest, right? And we're saying like this word of harvest has come into the outdoor world, especially because of YouTube and like people being on camera and hunting animals on camera. And I think a lot of it has to do with anti-hunters, organizations that we want to look the best we can in the light of those folks. And I get it, like I understand, but the reality of what we do as hunters, we don't harvest anything. Harvesting is a crop. We don't harvest a crop. We kill 100% kill in cold blood an animal. It's a blood sport. And I think a lot of times we as hunters want to just act like it's not. And I was 100% guilty of that for so many years because I meet so many people,
100%,
that didn't really like hunting, or I wasn't sure if they like hunting. So I'd be like, there is just something amazing about harvesting an animal. And it's just, I don't know. And then there's guys that talk about it. And again, like, that's just our opinion. Harvesting, you're not harvesting anything.
Yeah.
You're absolutely killing the animal. It's a blood sport. And that is a serious thing. That's a serious thing. Right. Yeah. And, yeah. So, I mean, I don't really have anything else to say about it. It's just that's the first thing that came to my mind when you said that.
It is. You asked a 2-part question. So the first part, and I don't remember the second part. First was about, I don't even remember what the first was. I answered it though.
How does it get so serious quickly? And then how do we find the joy in it when it's so serious? Like, how do we get out of how do you recognize that and then go, oh, I got to remember to enjoy it. Like, this is the joy part.
Why don't I kick it over to you?
Okay.
And you kind of answer the same question for you. Like, how has it gotten so serious? And then we can both kind of dive into, how, because I think we both had different journeys of seriousness, but then both have had different journeys of having to pull some of that back and get some of that joy back. And so I'd be interested to really dive into both of our journeys there. Okay. But I think just starting with, your journey to making it maybe too serious and what that looked like for you.
Wow. So I think it's there's kind of a couple different versions of it. I think it depends on the type of hunting, maybe for me. Okay. Like for whitetail, it's a different journey than it is maybe for duck hunting, but there's a lot of similarities in the way I think it's approached and how it can get serious quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm still a whitetail hunter. Like I am, I just haven't done a lot of it in the last couple of years since we've moved. Hunting's a little bit different. Opportunities are a little bit different. But I will say, like, if I can think back to times when I was archery hunting constantly, for me, it was, I had never shot what I would consider a mature deer for years. And I did a podcast about this. I don't know when it was, like when our old podcast was still going. And it was like, why did it take Corey 30 years to shoot a mature deer? Because it was like, it wasn't that I hadn't shot any deer. Like I had shot a ton of doe, legal bucks, things like that, but nothing that I would consider, like, call it what you will, a wall hanger, something you're going to put on your wall and you're going to going to be kind of proud of or whatever. Like I never did. Right. And so for me, it was always like every time I went into the woods, it was like I had to do everything perfect, because if I made one little mistake, all these years I've been putting into this, and I could finally get the opportunity and then miss it. So it was all about scent control. It was all these things. And then I would say I'd take it back to, you were with me in 2016 when I shot what I would consider the first mature deer I've ever shot in my life. And that was with the bow. It was on public land in Pennsylvania. And looking at that deer right now, it's on the wall. That for me was a big moment where I was like, I could take like a deep breath. And I think just learning from other guys too and stuff like that, like I still take it very seriously as far as like what I do for preparation to go into the woods. But I think it allowed me to, I don't know how to say this, but like allowed me to maybe enjoy some of the other things a little bit more, because I had achieved like a milestone for me that I've been trying for so many years. And you can relate to this in a different way. Every year that goes by that it doesn't happen, there's more pressure. You feel like you scout more than, you prepare more than, you actually are more hard, you're harder on yourself when you feel like you made a mistake walking in the woods. And that's how I was. And then in 17, and then it was like the floodgates open, and you were with me on the next one. And then in 17, I shot another one on land in Pennsylvania. And then I moved, and a year after that, I shot one that is the biggest deer I ever shot in my life on public land in Texas. And I didn't do a ton of work. I scouted, and I kind of got lucky. I stumbled on the sign. It was fresh. I backed out. I came in the next week. I sat in the tree. I did an all day sit. I shot this buck at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was like picture perfect, right?
Yeah. Well, let me stop you for 1 second though. Yeah. Saying you got lucky. There's always an aspect of luck when you shoot a deer, but you also, in the middle of the day, decided to make a move, 100 yards, 50 yards to a different tree, which allowed you to kill that deer.
Yeah.
If you had stayed put, you wouldn't have. So again, not to go off on a tangent here, but just to blow over and be like, yeah, it was lucky. You took a lot of years of experience and doing things to kill that deer, or else you would have watched him from 100 yards and he would have walked out of your life. So
I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, that's a good point, because I did overhead. I did Onyx map scout. I knew the property that was next to this piece of public that held huge deer. And the reality was, if I wouldn't have known that information or scouted that information, I would have never probably been attracted to that place in the first place. Yeah. And the reality was the deer I shot, I ended up coming off of that property. So yes, there was definitely some thought that went into it, and I did scout it. So I guess, yes, I did. But I think for me, once that happened, and this is tough for me too, because I know that you're in a battle right now. Like, and you're in a battle that I was in. Like, I know what it feels like. What you might want to shoot, or what your view of successes might be different than mine, and that's fine. But the reality is that the struggle is the same. And I went on a string, and I went on a streak, and then after the deer in Texas, it isn't that I don't love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. But there was the pressure got taken off of me. And now it's more of like, if I scout, I scout. If I don't, I'm still going to go enjoy my hunt. If somebody's in my spot and I have to leave and go home, like I'll leave and go home. Like I just view it differently. Right. And it's serious to me. Like when I'm in the moment and I go, okay, so tomorrow morning I'm going to hunt, I'm still serious about it. Like I still do the same things I did because I know that stuff works, right? Like you have to do that stuff. Like you said, you can't just go, you can't approach it completely differently and expect to have the same result. Like you still have to do some of the same things. And also I think the seriousness for me, and I'll let you kind of go after this. The seriousness for me comes with the availability of my time. Yeah. So the least amount of time that I have, I find myself getting more serious and putting more pressure on myself, whether it's turkey hunting, deer hunting, duck hunting, whatever. It's like every time you go out, if you have minimal time, you want to be successful like every time. And if you don't, it's like, my gosh, like I might not get to shoot another deer for like 6 months or a year or 2 years. So I think that too, time, availability of time, and it makes you get real serious with it.
Yeah. Yeah. The time is definitely like that. When you're after a goal, a specific goal, and you put in time, scouting and hunting and talking about it and looking at maps, like every time you don't like achieve that goal, it's like if you aren't very intentional and careful, it feels like another weight is just dropped on your back. Up, another hunt, boom, weight, right? Up, another season went by, boom, 2 weights right on your shoulders, right? The next season comes through, another weight, right? And they're strapping everywhere and they're just weighing you down. And the reality is that you, to be successful, to actually get to where you're trying to go, you need to like shed those weights off.
Yep. And
move forward, right? And get some of that joy back, because those weights are taking all of your joy. So not to go on a tangent, but that's I've been through this and I'm in the middle of it. Like I'm in the middle of it. I haven't shot a buck. I'm trying to think when it was. Oh, man, 8 years.
Yep.
8 years. Now, I've had opportunities to shoot nice deer, Pennsylvania, that I've passed up. It just wasn't what I was looking for. I've drawn my bow multiple times. Like I shot a giant deer, put an arrow in him, didn't find him. So like I've had opportunities, but I haven't walked up on a deer that I've killed. And so I have some of those weights. But I've also learned over the past couple of years how to like shed some of those weights too. And that's kind of what we want to talk about next. Like your next question is how do we keep the right level of seriousness, but bring back some of the joy and the enjoyment. And so I'll talk about just myself and kind of what that's looked like for me. You know, a lot of self-reflection and being honest with myself about like why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. A lot of it was for a long time, like I said, these outside influences. Well, I need this person. I want this person to see that I can do it. Or, well, that person shot this, so I need to go and shoot this, right? A lot of comparison, a lot of looking at other people, a lot of feeling these outside influences. And just self-reflection on like the opportunities that I've had and the places that I get to hunt and the time that I get to do it has been a big thing for me. But I would say that there's a couple things that I did very specifically that have started to take some of those weights off and bring some joy back into hunting. When you and I first started hunting together, one of the things that launched our relationship was the filming side of it. Getting into filming, and like Heartland Bow Hunter was like the greatest show on earth at the time. Hallowed Ground, another awesome show. And we were like all in on that. We were like, we're going to be Heartland Bow Hunter, Pennsylvania, right? Like that's who we were going to be. And we were going to shoot all of these deer and film it. And it was going to look awesome. And just didn't go to plan in many ways. And it got so ingrained in me to film my hunts, right? And to a point where I was like, man, if I don't take my camera today, I've been filming my hunts for 4 years now, every single hunt. If I don't take my camera, something's going to happen. And I like need to film my hunt. Like I need to do it. I need to film it in a certain way. Like it needs to present well, because I've created some of these films that present well and they look good. And so I need to maintain the same level of quality, and I need to film every single thing that I'm doing. And so that was actually putting physical weight on my body, because I'm trying to be mobile and move around and put myself in good circumstances. But this thing is becoming a burden. It's extra weight that I'm carrying in. I'm not enjoying my hikes in and my hikes out. And my setup time is 45 minutes to get everything set up. And I'm just taking more time than I should. And I'm having to get up earlier, and I'm getting out later than I would like. And who knows, like what deer were seeing me move my camera or seeing a lens, like all of these things. And it was just adding up. And I remember it was last season, I think, actually. It was this last season. And I was sitting in a tree at the farm, And I was sitting there and I was like, why am I continuing to film my hunts? Like I am not enjoying hunting as much as I should. I'm not having fun. I'm not focused on hunting. This is another topic for another day, but I'm not getting better as a hunter, not becoming a better woodsman because I'm like so much of my time is focused on the filming. And I just decided in that moment that I was done filming my hunts. Like I'm not picking up a camera. I'm not taking a GoPro. I'm doing nothing. Like I'm not taking a camera anymore. And I went hunting the next week, and man, I'll tell you, overnight, the joy came back overnight.
Oh, that's
Like
awesome.
my pack was lighter, right? So
Yep.
I'm like, I just didn't feel like I'm excited to go in now. Like I feel like there's nothing on my back now.
Yep.
My setup time is less. I'm going in focused on like what is going on. I feel like I'm seeing the woods clear. Then when I'm in the tree, I'm focused on hunting. Like I'm focused on watching the sunrise and listening for deer and watching what's going on and looking for sign. When before, all I was doing was looking at my camera settings and trying to film a squirrel running up a tree. Like I was missing so many things that were going on. And so that was a huge, huge change for me. But that was an action that like I had to take. Like I had to take that action. Or else like I wasn't gonna get there. It was too much weight. And I don't have plans to start filming again, like maybe a GoPro, but I might film my hunts again someday.
Sure.
But I feel like I'm in a really good place now. And so that was probably like the biggest action that I could take to try to get some of the joy back for me. Now, I know everybody's journey is going to look different. But that was for me the number one thing that really made me take things way too serious and just took the joy and the fun out of hunting for years, honestly, for years.
I mean, that's huge for you because I know how passionate you are about filming and how much you love it. And I mean, it's oftentimes that you and I talk about like, hey, do you enjoy the hunt more or do you enjoy the filming? And I know in a lot of cases it's the filming for you. Like you'd much rather have a camera in your hand than the bow, right? And so that's a big deal. I think you mentioned it, but I guess my question so was it like this big aha moment for you, or was it like something you were thinking about for a while and then you just got to the point where you're sitting in a tree and going like, I'm like forcing this right now. Like I just need to get rid of like dump the camera, that kind of thing.
It was probably just a culmination of being a bit unhappy for a long time. And then just sitting there in that moment where I felt like I had to make a change. Like I had to make a change. I either needed in that moment to make a massive change like that, or I just needed to take a break from hunting. Like it was that serious.
Huge. Wow.
It was that serious. Like it was like I just wasn't enjoying it. It was weighing on me. It was creating so much anxiety and so much just like, yeah, I just wasn't enjoying it. Like parts of it still, like I still love being outside and I still, enjoyed parts of the hunt. But so many pieces of it I just wasn't enjoying. And like, man, when it comes to hunting, like I might not be like in the best shape of all time or anything like that, but like I like work my butt off when it comes to hunting. Like I'll like cross the swamp, I'll cross the creek, I'll go 2 miles. Like I don't care. I'll do what I need to do. And this was just adding so much extra actual physical weight, but just so much extra burden to that whole process.
Yep.
I had to make a change. I had no choice. I sat in the tree that evening and I just said, I have to make a change. It's either going to be taking a break from hunting for the rest of the year and figuring out what I want to do, or I'm just going to stop filming and see what happens. Man, it made a big difference.
That's huge, man. I'm glad. I remember listening to your message and stuff, and like I could just hear it in your voice how like relieved you were. And so I'm glad you got to that place. I think it's like a one step thing, it's like the first step to many probably that you're going to uncover to like get the complete joy back. And of course, we always talk about it. It's like once you do kill that deer, like that feeling won't last forever either, right? And so you have to be rooted and grounded in the real purpose and the real joys of hunting, because you're going to shoot that deer eventually and it's going to be awesome, but then you're going to go, okay, what's next? And you just want to have that joy. So
yeah, and that was something that I want to touch on too, and then I'll kick it over to you. But you had mentioned how like you were kind of going along and then killing one in 16, 17, and then 19 kind of like just kept shedding the weight off of you. And I know for me, like, I haven't had the opportunity to kind of shed that weight through that route. And I don't think, like you said, I don't think that the answer to doing that is like, well, if I just kill something, then that will come off, right?
Right.
Because that's only going to bring you some joy. Your journey is different than other people, but that's only going to bring you joy for like a short period of time.
Yep.
And that's going to be on to the next thing. And if you're just waiting for that to happen and not trying to get the joy back and the excitement back and the fun back into what you're doing now before that happens or without that happening, you're missing the boat. Like you're missing the boat. I was missing the boat. Like I'm saying this to people, but I'm talking to myself. Like I missed the boat for a long time. Like a lot of things that I could have been enjoying more. And I had a lot of fun. Like I did. I'm not saying I didn't, but like, man, I missed the boat. I did. I missed the boat a lot for a long time. Because it's not about like that kill. Like the joy in hunting is not about that one moment.
Right.
It's just not. It's just not. And I'm still on that journey, but I'm at a much better place now where I realize that, yeah, I'm excited for that day too. Like I am. It's going to be an awesome day and it's going to happen. Like I know it's going to happen. But that's not where I'm getting my joy. It's just not at this point. And that's been and I have a lot of ways to go, but man, it's been a journey to get to this point. It's been a journey to say
and
the
it
least.
Continues. Oh, and listen, let's be honest. You should have the camera so you could fit more snacks in your pack. Right?
That's true. I actually
way more snack room.
I didn't lose any weight on my pack actually because I
More
took the
weight.
camera out and then I just load it with snacks. So I really didn't lose much. Just more coffee, more gummy bears, all the goods.
Yeah. I'm not trying to make light of your situation, but I'm trying to
No,
make light of your situation.
That's true. You should. I deserve it.
Oh man. Sell the camera. You'll have an endless supply of gummy bears.
That's right.
Just sell all your gear and just
sell the gear. I can't do that. I do love filming.
I do
love it. I love it.
We need the gear because you're talented.
And I will film. Like I'll keep filming. It's not like I am done filming.
Yeah.
It's just it was holding me back in so many ways.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And it was hard to come to that decision too. Very, very hard to come to that decision. But
I know.
Here we are.
Here we are.
So how about you? Like you had talked about, being very serious and then, a couple kills kind of lowered that, but you also have always, at least as long as I've known you always have a very like positive mentality when it comes to things. And that's like hard to do, especially when it comes to hunting. Like it is, because most of the time you're going in, you're not like, you're staring at trees, right? Like, so like, what's that been like for you? And how have you kind of been able to, I guess, maintain a good level of seriousness? Like, I know you take it serious. Like when we hunt together, like we get after it, right? Like we hunt, we get after it. But I feel like you have a very good level of seriousness when you're hunting. So what's that journey been like, and how have you been able to do that?
I think for me, and I don't even want to say I know exactly like when this has happened. I think honestly, I think it's probably directly related to my faith journey for sure. I haven't always been a believer, and I don't know how much we've talked about our testimonies and stuff, but I haven't always been a believer. And so I think, and I've hunted as a non-believer, so I know the difference.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. I think, to your point, I am, it's just funny. So I just took one of those behavioral assessments again, a different one. And my number one characteristic is eternal optimist.
Surprise,
Not
surprise.
surprised. Can get me into trouble at times, but I think for me, I'm definitely that guy that goes there. Like I'm like, there's like 30 seconds left in the shooting light, but it can still happen. Like I'm that guy. Like I don't leave early.
Yeah.
I generally don't leave early. I mean, unless there's something going on and I'm, I have somewhere to be, but I am till dark. And then I still sit there because I go, well, I want to see what's going to come through because then next time. So I am there and I'm all in and and I'm waiting for that next thing. And I like, sometimes I'll be sitting in a tree and I'll go, man, I haven't turned to the left in like 15 minutes. Like, I don't want to turn to the left right now because there could be a deer over there. Like I think through all that stuff in my head and I'm optimistic that there could be one coming around the next corner. Mm-hmm. But I feel like what's really helped me is that every time I get to the end of the day where it doesn't happen, I take a moment and I just kind of reflect and just show gratitude for like the things that have happened and like, and it's different every time. Like I don't always think of everything, but there's a lot of times where I'll be sitting there in the sun setting. And I know this too. And if you guys hunt, like, some nights it's just not going to be your night. There's no movement. You just feel it. I don't know what it is, but as hunters, you just kind of know. Right. And I know some nights you just know it's just not going to be your night and the sun's setting and you're just grateful that you're there in the tree, that you've had opportunities in the past. And you kind of like, things flash through my mind. And I just take a moment. I take a moment and I think about those things and I'm grateful for that. And I have this like sense of like happiness when I leave the tree. Like I don't ever leave. And I'll be honest, like I don't ever leave the tree frustrated. Like ever. I just don't. I get out and I enjoy the walk out, listen to the crickets as everything's as night's starting to fall and get back to the truck and unpack. I don't really try to rush around too much. I just kind of enjoy every little thing. And it might sound weird, but just like packing up the truck and like starting the truck and like all this stuff. And I enjoy it. And as I drive out, I'm just, I'm like looking for deer, but like, I don't know. I just try and be grateful for everything that has happened. And like I said, I wasn't always like that. I mean, I was definitely in a place at times where I would leave frustrated going like, oh, it's just another sit. Like, great, wasted it. I wasted, right? Like another 6 hours in the tree. And then the reality is like, you're investing. Every time you go out and sit in a tree, dude, you're investing. There's something you can learn. You're investing in the journey, investing in yourself, investing in your mental health, investing in your spirituality, investing in your, like, if you're intentional, you got to be intentional with that stuff. But I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's kind of my joy is really just the experience. And now I have, now that I have like a little girl that's hopefully going to hunt too, it makes that too a lot easier too. It's really never about the harvest. Now, if I'm whitetail hunting, again, it's a different story probably at times, depending on the situation, for example, if I draw a 3-day hunt at the Hagerman again, you better believe it is serious business.
Go time.
Game on. Like I'm going to enjoy it, but you better believe I'm there to shoot the biggest deer I ever saw in my life.
Oh yeah.
So
100%. Man, investing, you're investing, like, because people say that all the time, man. How one word can shift your mindset, man. Like so many people, I've been so guilty of it, man. I just wasted a day in the tree, right? It's like,
yeah,
man, like you invested that time, you learned things in that time, you invested in yourself and your, yourself as a hunter, yourself as a person. And man, I don't know, just that one word can shift your mindset. One thing that I was thinking of, and it'll be a question for you, kind of back to you, is I think one of the biggest things on kind of my journey to get some of that joy back has been the word gratitude. And I think a lot of people throw that word around, but don't really know what it is. Like they say, I'm grateful that I can hunt, right? Or I'm grateful that I get to hunt here. But they're just kind of like going through the motions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're just kind of saying it. I've done it too.
Yep.
And I think the biggest thing for me has been being grateful for things, not just verbally, but being grateful for things like in my heart and making it real, is a big deal. And that comes from, my faith, most importantly, right? Like, as a follower of Christ, I feel like, what he's done for me is like that is the most grateful that I could be for anything in my life. And that is the sample and the example of what, how I should live a life of gratefulness. And so taking that, the more that I've gotten serious about my relationship with him, the more that I'm able to be grateful for other things that he's given me, like opportunities, and viewing them in that lens. Perfect example is my in-laws farm. And I've loved hunting there since the day that I stepped on that place. I mean, it is an incredible place, but over the past couple years, just, multiple times hiking out in the dark and getting up to the top of the hill and just sitting down and just looking out over the farm and just be like, man, I really get to like hunt this place. I didn't see a deer. I haven't seen a deer here in 2 weeks, but I get to like hunt here, and I get to like walk in and go and hunt any tree that I want, and opportunities that I've had there and the memories that I've had there, and just this overwhelming feeling of gratefulness. And that has brought back some of the joy, but I've had to be really intentional about that. Right? Not just walk out and be like, man, I'm really grateful to hunt this place. Pack up my stuff and get in the truck. Right? It's like, I need to be intentional, and I need to take time and soak it in and be grateful that I get to do these things. And even in moments where I'm hiking in and I'm getting slapped in the face by branches and like my boot drops in the creek or whatever the case might be, like, man, I'm grateful for that. Like, and just totally shifting my mindset. Like, okay, I got slapped in the face, but most people are at work right now and they don't even get to hunt. And I'm getting slapped in the face by a stick because I have the ability to be out in the woods doing something that I love, at a place that I love. Like, I'm grateful for that. So just that intentionality. So my question to you is to kind of kick it back to you is like, and I know you understand this, but for you, gratitude and being grateful, like, how do you take it from something that's just a verbal thing, just saying like, oh yeah, I'm grateful for this, and making it into a feeling and something that is actually part of who you are? Because I feel like that is a big part of getting the joy and the the fun back into what we do and what we love in hunting.
That's a big one. I'll do my best to try and articulate that.
Yeah. And part of it for you could just be, who you are, right? You're just generally a positive and a grateful person, but trying to just unpack, and there's the pup. Yes.
There he is. You knew he'd make some sort of appearance.
Can you hear
him? Char.
I can hear him.
Thanks.
But just trying to unpack that a little bit, because I feel like you're so good at that. So trying to get into your mindset when you're feeling these moments, I think would be really unique and helpful.
Yeah, I think so. I think the thing that you mentioned that nails it is it's in your heart. It comes from like you said, following Christ for sure. I think that's where true gratefulness comes in, where it's just not a word. Where I feel like if you understand the depth of what God did for us, sending his only son to us. I was reminded actually this morning of the story of Moses. And the message revolved around how like we all might be struggling with something different. Like you feel like you failed at so many different things. Like you failed at being a father, you failed at being a husband. And like, where do you go from now? Like, that's the end of it, And Moses was a murderer. And then he went into the wilderness for 40 years, dude. For 40 years, lived in solitude, thought it was over. Right? And God had more in store. God had a different plan for him. And you know, the story about the fiery bush and all that stuff, and burning bush, fiery bush, burning
Same
bush.
thing.
Same thing. And he had more for him, you know, and Moses didn't really understand that. Why me? You know, why me, this person that's failed? And I think again, this was literally just this morning, and it was just a reminder of like how God is like he's always got us. Like he always has us. There's nothing too wrong you could ever do for him. And there's whatever failures out there, like we should just really be grateful for him. And I think, and it's, and again, I'm kind of talking probably in circles, but it's in your heart.
Yeah.
Like it's in your heart to be grateful. And it's, there's so many words. I mean, you could probably go through a list of words that are thrown out in our society that people just use that they don't really understand, that they actually came from the Bible.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that. They don't know that, right? Like hope's another one, right?
Right.
People don't really understand the magnitude of hope. So
yeah,
I know there's a lot there probably to unpack and stuff, but that's just what came to my head there, you know?
Yeah, no, it's really good, man. I just kind of think of like a phrase that probably both of us kind of think of at times, and I feel like as we continue on our faith journey, like it becomes more and more a part of who we are, and then gratitude flows from it. But it's just this idea of like when something doesn't go to plan, just like remembering like what Jesus did for us, right? Like, but Jesus, I didn't achieve my goal out hunting today. Who cares, right? Like, who cares? Like I'm a son of the living God. Who cares that I didn't achieve that? I had an opportunity to go out today. God gave me that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whatever happens through all of that, like we have this extra hope that we always have to hold on to, regardless of you know the end of the day, hunting is not that important. It's something that we do and we love, but Jesus is our hope. Like, and if we put our hope in find our joy in only in hunting and our success in hunting, we're gonna be pretty sad for our entire lives, because it's never gonna satisfy. It will never satisfy.
Yeah. And
go ahead.
Sorry. I was gonna say the reality is we're human beings that have feelings, right? And so like it's okay. Like we're gonna feel things like that. We're gonna feel disappointment. That's what makes us humans. But that reminder is it's important. It's being intentional about it.
And it's what we do with those things too, right? It's like when we fail, what do we do with it? Do we just let it eat us up and pull us down? Or do we pick ourselves up, regroup, get better, focus on the next thing, and find some positives in what just happened? Because they're always there. They're always there. There's always things that we can be grateful for. Comes back to that word again, that word gratitude. And not just saying it, but really feeling it inside of us.
Feeling it. Yep. Grateful. That's so good. Grateful is a feeling.
It is. It is. You can't just say it. You have to, you really try to feel it. And it takes a lot of intentionality to do that. Especially when it comes to hunting, because there's just a lot of failure and a lot of things that are telling us that we're not doing a good job. We're not good enough. We are a failure. So you have to be intentional about it. Have to.
Yep. For sure.
Where are we at time wise here? I looked for a timer and I was
we're an hour and 10 in already.
All right. So we need to
puppy up.
Yeah, because I was gonna go off on the next
part
topic,
one.
But
part one's over.
Part one. So just as a kind of a precursor, we definitely need to do part 2. I really want to dive in, and we talked about it briefly, but like managing your expectations hunting, and what that looks like. That's been a struggle for me, is like my expectations, you know, making them as close to reality as I can, but having them high enough to where I'm still going after something. There's a balance there. And I think that there's a lot to unpack there. And we both have different journeys with that. I'm still trying to figure a lot of that out myself. And so that's kind of probably a precursor to part 2. Anything else? I feel like we covered a lot tonight, but it's been good. Anything else that you want to touch on tonight before we jump off, kind of related to our conversation? Really what we focused in on was the seriousness of hunting, and how we kind of balance that with still having joy, overcoming failures, filling ourselves up with gratitude. That's kind of been our focus today. Anything else you want to touch on related to that before we jump?
No, I don't think so. I think part 2 is going to really tie it in though, right? Because I think the second piece of this whole thing is that everybody's view of success or their goals are different, but you apply the same things that we talked about tonight to any level of what you view as success or your goals. You can apply that all to the next level. However, I think when you talk about like different levels of what you view as success or goals, that's where I think we're going to talk again about comparing to others, because there's others that are going to be willing to do more, have the time to put in, to spend the time at, like they're just in a place where they're either have more time to do it or they're willing to do it. And so like, what does that look like? So I think,
that's right. Yeah. It's just managing expectations. Like if you're expecting to have, like, I'll just use a quick example, and then we'll wrap this up. Me, a Pennsylvania hunter, if I'm expecting to have the same result hunting 25 times in Pennsylvania as someone who's hunting 100 times in Iowa, you're going to be, you're off base, right? It's just not going to happen. Not consistently. I mean, maybe I get lucky one year, right? But like, they're two different playing fields, and you have to manage those expectations. And the problem is social media pulls a lot of this together. And so you have people telling other people what they should and shouldn't be doing. And we're all in different situations, and we have to set our own expectations for ourselves. And so that's really what I think we need to dive deep into on part 2 of this series that we just created out of the
new series. And we'll be doing this like every couple to, like, we'll have a guest on a couple times in a row, and then we'll probably be working through having just us again, continuing this series. So
perfect. Well, I think that's all we got. We got a couple squeaks in the background from our buddy Charlie. I love it.
Oh man. The worst thing you could ever give a retriever is a squeaky toy. But Bryn absolutely made sure that he had a duck that was stuffed that happens to have a squeaker in it. So it's the only squeaky toy he has. And of course, he found it while I was on the podcast and brought it in here to squeak. And he like literally never squeaks that thing. Like I never hear it. He's squeaking.
Oh, it's here. Oh, it's here. It's here.
But
cool, man. Well, this has been really good. Like even just for me to kind of process some things. I know we've had some conversations about this, but to kind of put it out there. And again, the goal of our podcast in general is to just help people just get in a better place mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. We don't have all the answers. If you listen to this podcast tonight, we do not have all the answers. We're processing and we're struggling through things. Listen to the last couple podcasts. Those guys have been through a lot. They're still working through things, but I think by talking about it and processing it with you guys who are listening out there, we really feel like those things can help because a lot of people don't talk about this stuff. They just don't. And so that's the goal. And so hopefully this conversation that we've had tonight, there's something in there that can challenge you or encourage you. But if there's anything that we could do to help you and I know we say this a lot, but we would love to chat with you, speak with you, pray with you, whatever that might be. I know how hard it is at times being a hunter and setting expectations. It can be very, very challenging and stressful, even when you have other people like that are going through it with you. And so the more people that you can bring together, the more community that you can feel that, hey, you know what, I'm not alone in this. Like, I have other people, I have people supporting me, I have people going through similar things. I think we'd all be better off if we have more of that. I do.
Oh, so good, man. And I really don't have anything to add to that, but it's just, yeah, it's who we are. I mean, it's really what we want to do. It's what we feel God's put on our heart with this podcast, is to dive deep into some of these things and not only help guys and even gals or whoever listens to this with their hunting mentality, but just mentally, spiritually outside of this. Because all these things we've talked about tonight, you could apply to really anything. So
it's true. It's life. It's life.
It's life
for sure.
So, well, how about if I close us out in some prayer?
Do it, man. Do it.
And we'll get rolling. And excited for our next guest.
Yes.
You haven't met him yet, but I'm excited.
I haven't.
For our
this
next
is your
guest.
thing.
Yeah.
This is your guy, man. I'm excited to chat with him.
My guy.
Hit him up with some questions and
cool.
Yeah, it'll be good.
All right.
All right. Close
All
this
right.
out,
Well,
man.
thanks everyone for listening, and we'll pray here and we'll close this out. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this opportunity again tonight to just to share our thoughts. And I will say, like, we are just truly grateful, Lord. I know we talked about grateful tonight, what that means, and what that really means is that you're in our hearts. That we truly understand the meaning of what you've done, how you sent your son to die on a cross for us. And we are truly grateful for that. We're grateful for these opportunities that we have on this earth. We just pray for anybody that's listening to this, anybody that's seen this, that if you're struggling, we just pray that you lean into God, lean into him in prayer, and spend time with him, because that's how we really get to know him. And if you've never opened up a Bible, we just pray that God puts that in your hands, and that you're able to just dive into that. And Lord, we're just eternally grateful for this opportunity to have this podcast and to share thoughts and have guests on that are vulnerable and sharing what they might be going through and their challenges. We hope that we just hope that we build this community, and that people can use this community to lean into for whatever need they might have, whatever they might be struggling with. Again, we just pray for all of our listeners, pray over this podcast, and we pray all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So we'll see you on the next podcast, next episode. This is episode what, 4?
I think we're on 4 already. It's crazy, man.
4.
We're flying.
We'll be at 365 in no time.
Let's go, man. Let's go. All right. Before we go, real quick, quick question. Give the listeners a good sleeper snack for them to take next time they're out hunting. A snack that like other people don't think about. I'll kick us off. Instead of going coffee, get yourself some matcha tea. It won't make you crash as much. Help your immune system, give you some good energy. Green matcha tea. It's a great sleeper snack instead of coffee.
That sounds very bougie. That sounds like bougie. That sounds good. It sounds like you're gonna bring like sleeper a little tea kettle out there or something. I don't even know.
I did. Remember my little teacup I brought when we were hunting? Green tea, man.
You did. All right, sleeper.
All right, just a sleeper snack. Not the typical. I don't want to hear Doritos and gummy bears. I want like a sleeper snack that's like, wow, like I never thought about that. It could be homemade. Could you go any route you want?
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot. I've got to think. I gotta think. I'm gonna say I don't know if it's a sleeper snack, but
Okay, that's fine. What do you got? What do you got?
It's one that I really got into, but you got to be careful.
Okay, I like where we're going.
Chocolate covered mini pretzels.
Why do you got to be careful?
Temperature.
Well, for Texas temperatures, yes.
Well, yeah, if those suckers melt, you are in for a mess. Let me tell you.
But I feel like if they get cold,
yes,
then you're in for a treat.
Yeah, you are, because then you eat it
that,
like a big pretzel, basically.
All right, so basically this is a sleeper snack at your own risk.
Okay, I'm gonna give you another one.
Okay,
and I'm not sure if you know of these. I don't even know
boy.
if they sell them in Pennsylvania, but let me tell you something, my friend.
Hit me.
Dots Pretzels.
Dots Pretzels. I don't think I know those.
I've never seen them until I got to Texas, and let me tell you,
okay,
they are like not a pretzel. Like if you eat that pretzel, you won't eat another pretzel ever in your life.
So what is the shape of the pretzel? Small, big?
It's a braid.
A
You
braid.
know what I'm talking about?
Small,
braided stick.
Small. Oh
little,
yeah. So
like
it's
that.
a braided little stick. Okay.
Yeah, about 3 inches, probably 2-3 inches.
Okay. Nice.
And they have some kind of seasoning on them. They're the we're gonna spend another hour talking about pretzels. It's a small like mom and pop company, and she like baked these pretzels, I guess, in her house, and like it exploded, and now they're everywhere, and like literally they go right off the shelf. So they have a couple different kind. They have the original, they have the honey mustard, and then I think she's got a spicy one too.
Dots
pretzels.
Now that is a sleeper snack.
It is a sleeper snack.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, that's a good one. So
we'll leave on that nugget. Yeah.
If people listen to this though, and they're out here, like apparently they're definitely out this way, because I know other guys that have talked about them, and it's like a must snack for the duck blind is Dots Pretzels. So I don't know, but
okay, there you go.
We'll end on that note. All right, guys, we'll talk to you in the next podcast. Thanks for listening, and